Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air. Severe weather targets the Northeast as more rain slams South Florida. The close call and dangerous plunge for a Southwest plane trying to land in Hawaii. And the new message and photo from Britain's Princess Kate. First, more than 50 million people on alert here in the Northeast. A severe thunderstorm watch for New York and New Jersey. The same system that spawned 7 tornadoes in the heartland, now taking aim at the I-95 corridor. Powerful winds, heavy rain, and the potential for tornadoes. In Florida, the flooding emergency intensifies. Entire neighborhoods overwhelmed, cars and homes inundated. First responders bringing families to higher ground. Victor Oquendo from the flood zone, our weather team tracking it all. New details just coming in about a terrifying midair incident over Hawaii. A Southwest jet plunging, coming within 400 feet of the ocean. And the new allegations that counterfeit titanium may have been used in some commercial planes. The FAA investigating. The Supreme Court strikes down a Trump-era ban on bump stocks, attachments that enable a semi-automatic weapon to fire at speeds closer to a machine gun. Bump stocks used in the worst mass shooting in modern American history in Las Vegas in 2017. The conservative majority on the high court ruling the federal government exceeded its authority. Terry Moran from the Supreme Court. The new announcement and emotional message from Princess Catherine saying she will attend a major royal event this weekend, opening up about her health, the good days and the bad. The Pope's historic meeting with world leaders at the G7 summit, his one-on-one with President Biden, and the pontiff's message about the threat of AI. Demolition begins on the site of one of the worst high school shootings in American history. The urgent manhunt here in New York for a suspect who assaulted a 13-year-old girl in a Queens park. And America strong tonight, just ahead of Father's Day, the Navy dad who flew halfway around the world to surprise his son.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Friday night. I'm Whit Johnson in for David. Several developing headlines as we come on the air. Reaction after the Supreme Court overturned a ban on gun bump stocks, and word of a terrifying plunge on a Southwest flight over the ocean off Hawaii. But we begin tonight with dangerous storms striking New York and New Jersey at this hour. More than 50 million people on alert along the I-95 corridor. Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York up to New England, all in the path. Treacherous driving on Route 128 in Weston, Massachusetts. And in South Florida, after days of torrential rain, millions are bracing for another hit. This family in Miami-Dade County, one of many rescued from flooded homes. In North Miami, the water is still knee-high, the streets full of cars abandoned where they stalled. We'll time this all out with the forecast in just a moment. But first, ABC's Victor Oquendo leads us off in Florida again tonight.
Tonight, powerful thunderstorms and high winds targeting millions from D.C. to New York to Boston. Dangerous driving conditions right in the middle of the evening commute.
But what we're concerned about, of course, damaging wind gusts, localized flooding, downpours, you name it.
It's the same system that spawned 7 tornadoes in the Midwest overnight. These buildings in the tiny northeast Missouri town of Ewing ripped to shreds. Meanwhile, waterlogged South Florida bracing for up to 5 more inches of rain after more than 2 feet already. Dead cars everywhere. Tow trucks have been working around the clock, this one picking up this car in North Miami. But down the block, there are at least another dozen stalled out cars, and that's just on one street. Families still trapped in neighborhoods that look like lakes. First responders in high water vehicles seen leading families from these flooded homes this morning.
Oh, wow. Look how much water is still inside his house.
So a lot of things got damaged. This is me trying to save what I can.
I mean, we're still talking about...
That's a good, what,
That's
3?
like 3 inches right here.
Yeah.
Jamin Reyes has lived in this North Miami neighborhood for 11 years.
You're frustrated.
No. Yeah. You know, I keep my cool, but this is every year, man. Every year is the same thing. I've damaged so many things, and I had to throw a lot of things away. And then when I replace them, they get damaged again.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. No, it's bad. It's bad.
3 days later, Miami-Dade Fire Rescue is still pulling people from their homes. There's actually a high water vehicle making its way down the block behind me. Much of South Florida is still under a flood watch through tonight. The good news, we finally start to dry out tomorrow. Whit.
And we've been seeing you in those floodwaters for days now. Victor, thank you. Meteorologist Lee Goldberg from our New York station WABC joins us now. And Lee, this dangerous storm moving right in as we speak.
WITSCO's about to open up here in New York City. Events already being canceled around the 5 boroughs. You know, the Northeast has been a stranger to the heat and severe weather. That's starting to change. Boston had damaging storms tonight. They got storms moving through the South Shore. Severe thunderstorm watches out southeastern New York and into New Jersey, also across southwestern Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia. And then it's about this heat. So we're getting a taste of it now. We've been just sweltering in the Southwest. Phoenix hasn't had a high below 100 since late May. Well, now that heat zone is expanding eastward. We've seen it in the southeast, but now it's blazing right off the bat next week in the Midwest and Ohio Valley. And then by midweek, it's right along the I-95 corridor. We could actually have an official heat wave to start summer. And then we have to watch the tropics. We're in a hurricane season, and there's a decent chance of tropical depression development in the southwestern Gulf. If it's named, it would be Alberto. Whit?
It's that time of year. We'll be tracking it. Lee Goldberg, thank you. Next tonight, the FAA investigating 2 midair incidents on Southwest Airlines flights. One jet's sudden plunge coming within 400 feet of the ocean, and a rare rolling incident at 34,000 feet. ABC's Trevor Ault explains.
Tonight, the FAA investigating 2 concerning incidents on Southwest Airline flights. In April, a Southwest Boeing 737 MAX 8 off the coast of Hawaii came within just 400 feet of slamming into the ocean. Bloomberg reporting inclement weather caused an aborted landing attempt on Kauai. The report citing a Southwest memo stating the less experienced first officer inadvertently pushed forward on the control column, then cut the speed, causing the airplane downward. Soon after, a warning system sounded alarms the jet was getting too close to the surface, and the captain ordered the first officer to increase thrust. The plane then climbed aggressively at 8,500 feet per minute. No one was injured, but the flight was diverted back to Honolulu. Southwest now saying the event was addressed appropriately, as we always strive for continuous improvement. Then last month, another Southwest Boeing 737 MAX 8, this time en route from Phoenix to Oakland, experiencing a rare event at 34,000 feet, what's known as a Dutch roll, when an aircraft simultaneously slides from side to side and rocks wingtip to wingtip. The FAA incident report says the flight regained control, and the post-flight inspection revealed damage to the standby power control unit. No one was injured.
As of now, this is not something for passengers to be concerned about. The NTSB would have grounded the fleet if they saw something that they were really concerned about.
Trevor Ault joins us now. And Trevor, these incidents are coming to light amid new safety concerns. The FAA now investigating how counterfeit titanium ended up in passenger jets.
That's right, Whit, and it's jets from both Boeing and Airbus, and the common link between them is a company called Spirit Aerosystems, which does manufacturing for both. And they say that counterfeit titanium made its way into the supply system through falsified documents. Now, Spirit Aerosystems says all those parts have since been removed from production, and they, along with Airbus and Boeing, insist all planes in the air are still safe to fly. Whit.
Important information there. Trevor, thank you. Now to that major Supreme Court ruling overturning a Trump-era ban on bump stocks, those attachments that dramatically ramp up the speed of how rifles can fire bullets. The ban had bipartisan support imposed after the horrific Las Vegas Music Festival attack in which 58 people were killed. But the court's conservative majority ruled the government's ban was unlawful. ABC's Terry Moran is at the Supreme Court.
It was the deadliest mass shooting in modern American history. A gunman firing more than 1,000 rounds in 10 minutes killed 58 people at a Las Vegas concert. And now the attachment that gunman used to transform several of his weapons so they could fire at that lethally high rate of speed is legal once again in the U.S., more than 5 years after the ATF banned so-called bump stocks following that rampage in Vegas. In a 6-3 ruling, the Supreme Court today said bump stocks, which can enable semi-automatic rifles to fire up to 800 rounds per minute, don't convert those weapons into machine guns, which can fire up to 950 rounds per minute and are prohibited in the U.S. Writing for the conservative majority, Justice Clarence Thomas said even with a bump stock, a semi-automatic rifle will fire only one shot every time the trigger is pulled. Thomas writing, a bump stock does not convert a semi-automatic rifle into a machine gun any more than a shooter with a lightning-fast trigger finger does. Michael Cargill, the gun store owner who sued the government to reinstate bump stocks, was elated by the ruling.
They cannot walk into my house and tell me something that I owned, that I purchased, all of a sudden years later it's illegal and they decide to ban it.
This year we met the man who invented those bump stocks, Jeremiah Cottle, and he showed us how they work.
And it's as simple as lining the bump fire stock up with a buffer tube and then sliding it on the gun. You pull the trigger, it fires one time, it recoils, and you pull the trigger again to fire the next one. Range is hot. What my product does is just allows you to do that very quickly.
The invention made him a millionaire overnight. More than 700,000 bump stocks were sold in the decade before the ban took effect in 2019. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, dissenting, scorned the majority's logic. When I see a bird that walks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, I call that bird a duck. A bump stock-equipped semi-automatic rifle, I call that a machine gun. Today's decision to reject that ordinary understanding will have deadly consequences. Marissa Morano, who survived the Las Vegas shooting, says she's appalled by today's Supreme Court ruling.
I'm sad. I'm sad that our Supreme Court can't protect us. I'm sad that our children and our communities are not safe. It's sickening, to be honest.
Terry Moran joining us now. So, Terry, as you noted, people can buy bump stocks now, but the High Court left the door open for a ban to be reinstated in the future.
That's right, Wade. Some people can buy bump stocks. The federal ban is gone, but several states have their own bans. Those are likely to be challenged under the Second Amendment. And the only way a national ban could be reinstated is if Congress passed a law to do it. And given the track record there on this issue in recent years, the only thing that could get Congress to do something like that is another massacre.
Another major ruling by the Supreme Court today. Terry, thank you.